Welcome back. It's another edition of the Long Way Around podcast. Podcast.
Here we are. We
That's
did
our new.
it.
We did it. That's our new jingle. I just made that up right now.
I like it.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome to another edition of the Long Way Around podcast. Podcast. Different song.
Acapella.
Yeah, different song, different lyrics. It's a new song every week. Tune in next time for another rendition of the song. It'll be the remix dubstep trap version of the song or something. Hi, I'm Tony.
And I'm Kevin.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Man, this is actually a pretty jovial start to what we're going to talk about today, which is not so jovial, and that's okay. That's okay. We're gonna bring you in and make you feel good, and then we're gonna make you feel like crap afterwards. No, actually,
Basically.
no. It'll be empowering today. It'll be empowering today. I promise it'll be empowering today. Yeah. So, Kevin, hello again.
Hello, Tony. Good to see you.
Likewise. So today we're actually going to be talking about kind of a heavy subject, and I didn't know if we should talk about this or not. We're going to, though, because it happens to a lot of us, especially if you use a caregiver in your day to day. And that is the feeling of being a burden on other people, right? Well, I mean, like I said, if you have a caregiver, whether it's family or somebody else, you felt that at some point in time.
Yeah, I would totally agree. I mean, that it kind of goes hand in hand with needing care and just like being more dependent on other people, I would say.
Yeah, it does. And it's interesting because like everybody who knows us, like actually knows us, knows inherently that we need help, right?
Right.
With something, right? Like you and I are both pretty independent people. We get around, we do stuff on our own. There are some things though that we need help with, like getting out of bed, eating, showering, going to the bathroom, pushing buttons to elevators sometimes if they're not low enough because they didn't put the buttons down low enough,
Et cetera, et cetera.
etc. Right? There are things that we need help with.
Yeah.
And it obviously can be exhausting for the people who help us, especially the people who help us every day, physically, sometimes mentally as well. I'm here to let you all know that it is mentally exhausting, more emotionally exhausting sometimes for us, right?
Oh, I would totally agree. I think a lot of people don't really realize like how much energy it takes just to live our lives.
It really does. And so I'm going to explain now, and stop me at any time, Kevin, if I say something that's not correct or out of line or unsavory. I might say all three at some point.
Fair enough.
So there's a yearning to be independent when you don't have that independence. And part of that we also understand, in addition to that yearning, that there is a certain level of compromise that we live with that most people wouldn't live with. And that is because if we asked for every single little tiny little detailed thing that we would want, then we start getting called, stop me if you haven't heard any of these before, Kevin, particular, picky,
Needy.
right? And to a certain extent, I I kind of understand. Now, where this ends up stemming from a lot of times is things that you do on your own for yourself that you don't even think twice about. And I'll give you a perfect example. You're eating something and there are crumbs on you. Kevin, when you're eating, crumbs are the worst.
Yep. Oh, absolutely.
They're awful, right? Like you're eating a really super delicious sandwich. Like say you got an Italian sub with like a crusty Italian bread, and there's like a little bit of like there's like mortadella on there and soppressata on. It's like delicious, right?
Right.
And like you bite into that bread and it's just crumbs everywhere, right? Not most people. You just like after you're done eating, you stand up and you brush the crumbs off. Like I can't stand up and brush my crumbs off.
Right.
Kevin, you can stand. You
I
can't brush.
can. I can, but I usually just blow them off,
You can't get them all
honestly.
off though. Lung power is only
It's
so powerful,
true. True.
right?
Especially if it gets in a weird spot that you can't reach.
Right. And so like you need help with that. And like, people shake off your pants or whatever, brush your pants off, no problem, right? Or but sometimes it's like you don't want to ask for that kind of help. And I'm just using the crumbs as an example, right? There are other little things that I can name hundreds of things, but I don't want to bore you all with all that. Um, but like for example, like I sit in this chair all day, and if my pant legs or my shirt or something isn't just right, I gotta sit with that all day,
Right.
right? Like if you're sitting down and there's a little wrinkle in your pants, what do? You kind of pick yourself up a tiny bit and shimmy and pull your pants a little bit until it's smooth, and you sit back down. You don't even think about it. Kevin and I and all these other folks out there, we can't do those things, and so we need to be particular in the care that's provided for us. Because if we're not, these things get uncomfortable, and sometimes for some people, these things can lead to things like pressure sores or rashes or other things like that. And so yeah, it can come across as being particular or picky or needy or demanding or all of these other things. And what people don't understand is that these things that we are picky about or demanding about or particular about are things that you do for yourself every day without even thinking about it.
Right. That's what I was just gonna say is people don't realize that they do these things. They just don't have to ask anyone for help with them. I think the biggest thing is, yeah, I know something that I would do and probably still do subconsciously is I'll kind of prioritize what I need help with and make sure it's like, okay, these three things are the most important things. And if we get to the other things because whoever's helping me hasn't gotten frustrated yet, maybe we can attack those. It's not like I like tell them that, but in my own head, I'm like, okay, I got to make sure these things get done. If this thing doesn't get done today, that can be done another time. But yeah, you don't want to necessarily overload a caregiver with like a bunch of different tasks because eventually, yeah, they'll probably start to get frustrated, and that's where those sorts of comments start to happen, right? Like, oh God, you're being so needy today. You have a lot of things to do today, or just things like that. And like I would say, these are things that need to be done. Whether they need to be done right then and there, it depends. But like generally speaking, if like I think of a task that I ask a caregiver to do, it's something that genuinely does need to be done, at least at a certain point. So I do think it's important to kind of prioritize it also.
Yeah, I do the same thing. I'll create a list in my head of things that need to get done, and I'll go, okay, I've got X amount of time. Here's what absolutely needs to get done. If we have time, I'll do this one, and then I'll do that one. Or
Mhm.
or here's another example, right? Everybody cooks differently, right?
Yeah, yeah, God, it's so true.
Oh my goodness. And so, Kevin, do you wash your chicken before you cook it?
I don't. Well, I don't cook it, so hard for me to say. I don't think they do.
Don't wash your chicken.
Yeah, I
Don't
don't
wash
think
your
they
chicken.
do.
Don't wash your chicken. Okay, don't do
Yeah.
that. Or like cutting vegetables, right? Like if you need something cut small because of something that you're making, right?
Mhm.
And like you say, okay, I need you to cut this. Oh, can you cut it smaller? Can you do a little bit more? It's like these are the people who like make things for themselves, and they're like I. Sometimes what happens is like you'll get somebody who knows how to cook for themselves, or they have a certain way of cooking for themselves, and if your
Mhm.
way is different, it becomes it becomes an argument sometimes because this person's been I've been cooking all my life. You don't tell me how to cook. I know how to do this already. Yes, you do it weird, right?
See, I take a very different approach. When they're in the kitchen, I'm just like, all right, here's a piece of chicken. Here's everything else I have in the fridge. Good luck.
Oh no. Oh, phew, man. I've done that, and I no.
Oh
No.
yeah, I
And
just take a very hands-off approach and just let them. I mean, I'm not super picky. Like I'll eat pretty much anything. Um, obviously it's got to be cooked right and it's got to taste good and all that. But like as far as like how they prepare it, I usually just let them have free reign because I realize it's like, yeah, everyone has their own way of doing it. And I've never cooked. I don't really know how to cook per se. Even though I did take, food prep in high
mm,
school. But yeah, it's like I feel like I can't really tell them what to do in that regard because I'm not that knowledgeable on what to
yeah.
do.
So I mean, I know how to cook fairly well. I mean, I can cook stuff. And sometimes it becomes an argument. Sometimes I want to take your approach, and sometimes I do take your approach, and it doesn't come out the way I would like it to.
Yeah,
You can't complain though.
right.
I mean, you can. It just then you become particular or needy, right? And then it becomes burdensome, right?
Yeah.
And so there is a certain level of compromise that we have to approach life with,
Hmm.
and so you don't want to be needy, you don't want to be picky, you don't want to be particular. You have to be sometimes though. I find that sometimes I get really particular about how the Hoyer lift is set up before
Yeah.
I'm lifted, because if I
Yeah.
don't, I realize I've come to the conclusion, because people have different baselines for what is acceptably good and
Yeah.
like good enough to accomplish a task. I have
Right.
come to the conclusion that if I weren't as particular or picky as I am about certain things, I'd be dead.
Oh yeah. 100%.
I'd be
That's
dead.
Yeah, yeah. That's what I try to tell my caregivers is like, yes, I know that I seem particular and I know it seems like I have high standards sometimes, but when I don't have those standards, that's when things start to like slip through the cracks
Hmm.
or, things aren't getting done. I'm, whatever's not happening. Like if I'm not being clean properly, if I'm not being dressed the way I want or if my food isn't being prepared the way I want, like those issues tend to snowball. And when those issues tend to snowball, and especially if you're not saying anything, they just fester and eventually it just leads to a blow up.
Yeah.
And that's never good for anyone
No.
because then you're annoyed and the caregiver's, upset probably because you're angry with them and you just don't want that. Like you just have to be, I mean, we really have to be on our game 24/7, right?
Yes. It's exhausting sometimes.
Yeah.
It really is. And
Yeah.
so there's that. And then so this really, what I'm about to bring up now is sort of related, sort of not. This really was the catalyst for bringing up this topic today. And it's those moments, and maybe even better than I do, Kevin, when you need help, like because a caregiver doesn't show up, right? That that is one of the most mentally and emotionally exhausting things that can happen to someone who relies on other people, and those people aren't reliable. And for
Right.
whatever reason, sometimes they're very valid reasons and sometimes they're not.
Mhm.
Um, and so there was one moment, it's probably 2023. I was laying in bed, caregiver didn't show up. Now I have a friend here in town that when he's in town, I know I can call him, right? I know, like, call him up if he's like not out and about, he will drop what he's doing and come over and help me out. Sam Frazier is this man's name. I gotta shout him out because he's the man.
You go,
Um,
Sam.
Sam is a real one, as the
Yeah.
kids maybe used to say. I don't know. So there was one day, and I don't remember what prompted this. Something happened, and I'm pretty sure Sam wasn't down. I had relied on him a lot over the last week or two, right? And somebody didn't show up in the morning. And I sat there in bed and I go, "Oh my God, what am I gonna do? I
Mm.
really don't want to call Sam again."
Yep.
And he always tells me,
Yep.
like, he's like, "Don't ever worry about it. I got you. Don't worry about it."
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, "Oh my God, what am I gonna do?" And so I started calling other people, and people weren't answering their phones because it was early in the morning. It was like a Saturday or a Sunday,
Yeah.
and nobody was answering their phones.
Yep.
And I was like, "Oh my God, I can't keep calling Sam." And so I
Mm.
laid there for a little bit, and I'm thinking to myself, I go, "I really don't want to lay here in bed all day. I have to go to the bathroom. I need to sit up because my body's a little sore from laying here so long."
Mm.
And I just laid there because I was just so paralyzed from like not wanting to like burden my friend again. And I really had to do some digging in that moment. And I go, "Look, if you don't call him, he's going to be upset that you didn't call him, right?
Mm.
And you have to understand that when he says, 'Don't worry about it. Call me if you ever need me. I'll be there,' that he means it and that you're not being a burden, right?" And then I really had to sit there for a moment and think to myself that even if it's inconvenient for that person in that moment, there are people in your world that care enough about you that they are going to drop what they're doing to come help you if they are able to, right?
Yeah.
And in some circumstances don't enable them to do that, right? For
Right.
whatever the circumstance is, maybe they're out of town or whatever. And because I had to think to myself, I go, what if Sam weren't here in town? What am I going to do? Who can I call? And so I had to really think about that for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to say to myself, I go, you, Tony Jackson, are worth it to some people in your life. If you call them, they will do what they can to help you. They may have never done it before. It may gross them out. They may vomit afterwards. They may go wash themselves in boiling water. Some people care enough about you that if you need that kind of help, they will come help you.
Right.
So you are not a burden to people. Is it inconvenient? Possibly. Will they be mad at you forever? No. And I really had to have that conversation with myself.
Yeah.
And it was actually kind of empowering having that conversation with myself
Yeah.
because it forced me to see the value I have in other people
Mm.
when I don't think many of us take the time to do that, right? Especially
Right.
with, with our close friends and family and things like that. It forced me to think about the value that I bring to them as me. And it was really kind of encouraging. I was like, "Damn, Jackson, okay,
Yeah.
cool." There's a lot of things that you can't do, and you and I have talked about this before. There are a lot of things that we can't do and that we can't contribute to in situations or circumstances. However, there are a lot of things that we can and do contribute to our friends and family and whoever.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, first off, I was just gonna say, like, yeah, I've experienced that exact same scenario pretty much, where, and I don't think people realize how like helpless of a feeling that is when it's like you wake up and the first thing you see is a text message from your caregiver that's supposed to be there, and it's like, "Hey, I'm not feeling well. I'm not going to be there today." And it's like, "Okay, great. How am I going to get out of bed now?" Um, I genuinely do the same thing. I I always make sure to try to have people who I know that I can ask who live relatively close to me. But like you bring up some great points. Like if you go to the well too often, like I mean, I know I've had it, right, where I've asked people to help me maybe too many times, and all of a sudden they just don't reply. Um, or it just seems like they're just like never available anymore. You know, they just kind of like tune you out, you know. So I get that feeling for sure. And I get why, you know, you would be hesitant to message Sam. But at the same time, you know, we only can go off of what people tell us. Um, you know, if someone tells me, hey, like you ever need help, like you know, you ever in a bind, whatever, let me know. Well, okay, then like I'm going to reach out if I'm in a bind, or if I'm running into an issue. You know, and you're right. Like sometimes they're able to help, sometimes they're not for reasons that are, you know, sometimes within their control, sometimes beyond their control, right? Sometimes the reasons are good, sometimes they're not. But like people have their lives and like there's nothing we can really do about that. You know, and I think we've talked about like feeling like a burden to others, but it's also like the burden that we feel in the position that we are in. And I think that's not talked about enough, that because we are, I don't want to say we're like the boss, we're like managers is a good way to describe it, right? Like we are in the position that you and I are in, we are basically managers of our own lives. And because of that, that places what I would call the burden of leadership on us. And when you're in a position of leadership or power, or whatever you want to call it, there are just things that we have to deal with whether we want to or not. You know, if we have a caregiver who all of a sudden, you know, is unreliable and they're calling off a lot, then it's on us to look at that situation and be like, okay, do we have to replace this person? Do I have to try to find someone who's more reliable? And then it puts that on us of, okay, well, if I'm going to move on from this person, how am I going to do it in the least awkward way possible, and also in a way that doesn't put us in a compromising position, right? Like I wouldn't want like someone to be taking care of me and then at the end of their shift it's like, hey, by the way, you're no longer going to be helping me, you know, and then
Yeah.
they're like already in my apartment. um so yeah, I mean, there's a lot to unpack. um you know, I think a lot of people just don't think about like the mental gymnastics, honestly, that it takes to like kind of run our lives, and deal with other people on really a 24/7 basis.
Yeah. I mean, we're really kind of like the CEOs, right?
Yeah,
Of the business of us, or you know, maybe we're like the vice president of people and culture. It's what they call
that's a
HR
good way to
now.
describe it, because we're running everything and we're making sure like people are scheduled and people are hired and fired and all that stuff, but we're not actually doing any of the caregiving per se.
Right, right. And so it's just it gets exhausting.
Yeah.
It is exhausting some days when you have to deal with people, you know? I mean, you know, I was thinking about this recently. There are certain ways in which I have a lot of privilege. I have a lot of privilege in certain ways. Like, I think you and I have talked about this before. I get into places that no other person would get into without being questioned,
Yeah, yeah, same.
right? Like people don't even question it. Um, you know, I do things that somebody else would probably get pulled over by the cops. You know, I mean, yeah, I just you know, it happens. I certainly have some privilege. However, I think people don't understand the privilege that they have as being somebody who is completely physically autonomous.
Yeah. 100%.
Because you take it for granted, right? And I
Right.
understand, like, this is your reality, right? This is how you've grown up. You don't know anything else. And I think that it's only those people who maybe have lost that autonomy through injury of some sort and now rely on other people who really understand the privilege that those people have,
Oh yeah.
right?
You know, at the same time, I would say it's harder for them, arguably, than like for
Oh,
us.
sure. Oh, sure.
Because they
100%.
know they know what they're losing or what
Yeah.
they've lost.
100% for sure. It just it it is a challenge some days to not feel like you are burdening the people in your life,
Right.
right? It's just when communication isn't there, right? Or people aren't being honest with each other, which, many of us do that, right? Like we'll say something we don't necessarily mean to keep the peace, or we'll do something or not do something in order to keep the peace, right? And it's exhausting.
Yeah.
It is. However,
Yeah.
again, going back to that moment where I was laying in bed, like you said earlier, helpless, like understanding that there are people out there who will drop everything to help you out because they care enough about you, because you bring enough value into their lives that they want to do this for you, no questions asked. And understanding that again is very empowering.
Yeah. And that's the thing I've definitely realized as I've gotten older is that, you know, you're always looking for people to help, and or at least I am, the way I do it, just because, people come and go, things happen, all that. And, I've had people who are very nice about it, and they are very willing to help. I've had people who are very nice about it, but they don't have the time, and then you have people who are honestly kind of assholes about it, like they don't understand like what you're needing help with, or they get grossed out by it, or things like that, and the thing that I try to tell myself is that, I mean, there's 8 billion people on this planet. I will The people who, it's what's that phrase, like the cream rises to the top, right? Like, I do think that the people who will benefit people like us will end up showing themselves, or
Yeah.
we do end up being able to find them. And something that I've really tried to work on is not worrying about, you know oh, like this person, basically told me to fuck off because they didn't want to help me, but like that's their problem.
Yeah.
In my eyes, that's a person who I would see is, maybe a little ignorant of what it's like to live like we have to live, and, just move on to the next one. I mean,
Yeah.
that's really all we can do. And sometimes that happens with people who have actually helped us, like they're good at first, maybe something happens, and they're no longer reliable, and you end up having to move on from that person. But, at the end of the day, like we have to do what is ultimately best for ourselves too.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's survival really when it comes down to it at the end,
yeah.
right? And so this was a whole long conversation just to say that you out there watching or listening to this are not a burden. Are you inconvenient sometimes? Eh,
Probably
maybe.
a little bit.
Are you picky? Eh,
Yeah, definitely.
maybe.
I know my caregivers would say I'm picky about my hair.
Right, but it's your hair though, right?
Yeah.
And those same people, I'm going to just say it, some of them are probably women who spend
Most.
an inordinate amount of time on their hair. Some of them, not
Right.
all of them. Hashtag not all women. Right?
Yeah. Right.
Don't even.
And the thing I would say is like if I'm all raggedy and like my hair, if it's not combed or whatever, and feel free to disagree with me on this, but I feel like people treat me differently if I'm like, unkempt, if I'm not like,
I mean, I'm
you
unkept
know,
as hell right now.
yeah, fair
Right?
enough, fair
Like
enough.
I almost got kicked out of my own apartment by the cat. Cat was like, "You look right. You need to get out. You right." I no, I you know what? I'm gonna disagree with you to a certain
Okay.
extent, especially if it's people that know you because they know you, and most of the
If
time
it's
they don't.
people that know you, that's different. I'm
Yeah,
talking like strangers, like you go to the store and just interacting with random people.
yeah. To a certain extent, yes. Your appearance will always determine how people treat you.
Yeah.
To a certain extent, I will give you that. I think most people don't care enough at the end of the day unless you truly look like you need help in many ways,
I don't
right?
think it's people caring. I think what it's kind of a bias that people see the wheelchair and it's like, oh, okay, he's got a disability. And then if like my hair is all messed up or, you know, I don't know, I got holes in my shirt or whatever, then I think people kind of take it a little bit further, like,
Maybe.
oh, okay.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
Um Sometimes I just don't care though. I
Yeah,
mean,
for sure.
I mean like
I'm
I
not
mean look
saying
in
I
the
acknowledge it, but
I haven't seen I because do you look at yourself in the mirror every day?
yeah, for
Okay.
sure.
Okay. Because like I guess I do sort of sometimes. I don't really need to though, because I have other people helping me. And
Yeah.
sometimes I just trust them to just make sure I don't look busted. Like, I look busted right now. I haven't shaved I mean, look at this. I haven't shaved in a couple of weeks. I mean,
There
I
have
mean,
been too many times where I look in the mirror at the end of the day and I'll be like, oh, there's this, whatever, this big like piece, this like mustard stain next to my mouth and no one said anything,
nobody said
you
a
know?
word.
Yeah. So like there's been too many times like that where now I'm just like, I'm just gonna check the mirror when I have the opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like, I mean, I haven't had a haircut in like 3 months. Wait, what is this? I mean, it's I look busted as hell right now. I mean, I agree though, right? Like sometimes they do, and so sometimes you have to be a little bit more particular. Like when I used to have long hair and I would wear it tied back, I would put gel in my hair to keep it down, and it
Yeah.
like if
That's
people
what I do.
didn't do it right,
Yep.
like you'd have this weird wave going on. You'd have some hair sticking out that wasn't supposed to be sticking out, right?
Yep.
And again, I think truly most people could not care less. However,
Right.
it plays in your mind if you care about your appearance at all, and clearly I don't right now. Look at me, jeez. Um, it plays in your mind and it makes you a little less confident to go out into the world and do whatever it is you need to do. And
Hmm.
so, to a certain extent, yes, you have to look proper, right? Like at least kept,
Right.
as my dad would like to say, look like you belong to somebody,
Right,
right?
exactly. Or there are times where, you have to look presentable because you're a part of something, that might not even be involving you. Like I was in a wedding a couple weeks ago and it's like, okay, I got to make sure like the beard is trimmed, the nails are clipped, the hair is combed properly, like, because there's going to be a lot of photos taken and you don't want to be the one like looking like a schlub.
Yeah. And so you end up being a little bit particular. You end up
Yeah.
being a little picky. You end up being a little needy. You are not a burden though. We are here to tell you you are not a burden, all right? People out there care about you. So go off into the world and live your dreams, y'all.
It's
Yeah,
good advice.
there you go. There you go. You know what? We'll just end it on that. There you go. We'll end it on that.
It's a quality message.
Thank you. Thank you. So, all right. Well, on that note, then this has been another episode of the Long Way Around podcast. I'm Tony Jackson,
And I'm Kevin Sullivan.
and we will see you next time for another episode. Make sure to follow us Instagram, Facebook, LWA.
at
No,
at TLWA podcast.
I'll never get it right.
I don't think Tony's ever gonna learn this.
I will never get it right. At TLWA podcast. Instagram, Facebook. I mean, we've been doing this for like 5 years now. I still can't get this right.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm gonna just tattoo it on your forehead at some
That's
point.
fine. To do it on my neck, at least it'll look more stylish if you do it on my neck at least.
Yeah. And free advertising for us.
And free advertising, unless I like get super fat and my folds cover the tattoo, then it'll be wasted.
Okay, well let's try to avoid that, I guess.
Okay, I will do my best, even though you know I like to eat sometimes.
Yeah.
So anyway, okay. And on that note, goodbye, good day. Go off and do awesome stuff. Bye.
Bye.